Alright, hello there, it's your good friend Pozzible here, and as you know, we are in the golden age of superhero movies, where basically the studios will put millions into a movie, and they can gross 3 times as much or even more, depending upon how well that movie does. But as we move forward into the new year of 2014, we're going to look at some of the top 5 concerns of future superhero movies to see what are the challenges that Hollywood has to overcome in order to keep this cash cow going. Working with unknown characters. Well, it had to come to this eventually. I mean, Batman's been done to set. Superman's been done. Spider-Man's been done together. They've even begun each one like twice or 3 times right now. And so it's time to move on to some new characters. They're banking on things like Guardian of the Galaxies and even Ant-Man in future incarnations of these movies. But will these new people really sell? I mean, no one's really heard of some of them. You look at Ant-Man, and at first glance, you get a feeling that it's just another version of Spider-Man, even though we all know the character is completely different. Superhero saturation, because basically, where are superheroes? They are literally everywhere. I mean, in 2013, we got to see a ton of them in Wolverine, Iron Man, Superman, Kick-Ass if you want to go that route, and even Thor. But let's face it, we get them everywhere, even ones that are coming out next year, the year after, and a review of those that have come in the past. So superhero saturation is a big concern just because we get too much superheroes in our lives. Too much repetition. I mean, the basic superhero formula can be broken down into 3 parts. A superhero has a life, either a great life or a terrible life. Some bad guy shows up and make life miserable for the superhero and everyone else in the world, apparently. And then finally, an epic battle makes the superhero's life great again. With few variations, this is the basic formula, and there's a lot of cliches in superhero movies, but is it too much? I mean, Iron Man 3 really tried hard to break the cliche, to get people thinking out of the box, and look where it got them. I liked it, a lot of people hated it. So it's a risky battle. But by staying within those confines, is dangerous. But getting outside is even more dangerous. So what do? It's going to be a big problem in the future. Next up, replacing the current actors is going to be the hugest challenge when it comes to the future of superhero movies. We all remember Iron Man being Robert Downey Jr. and Wolverine being Hugh Jackman, but the question is who is going to replace them when it comes time for them to retire? And can the series really survive with this transformation? How many times have you seen it in television shows or even other movie series where they replace one of the characters and the next thing you know, they're gone? The whole movie franchise dies. It's not just a question of who replaces them. It's a question of how are they going to replace them. If we get a new Wolverine, do we have to start all over again with an origin story? Do we just, pull an Iron Man 2 where the new Wolverine comes out and says, hey, it's me, get over it? I mean, what are we really supposed to do here, and how are we going to replace them in such a way that people keep coming to the theaters? It costs too much money. This is going to be where Steven Spielberg and George Lucas get to say, I told you so. If you can remember back in early 2013, these guys talked about how the film industry is run in such a way that it implodes on itself. We basically have this problem where people are spending too much money on these superhero movies, and they're putting all their eggs in one basket. I mean, you saw when I first started this thing, it cost over $220 million in order for the Avengers to be made. Now, if that movie made $200 million, then it would still be considered a flop because it didn't make back its money. That's because it was so expensive. It always brings me to 2 kinds of movies that I really can't stand in Hollywood. The first are those that are too cheap to fail, like the Paranormal Activities and Insidious, The Conjuring. I'm not saying those are good movies or bad movies here, even though I hate Paranormal Activity. I'm saying that these movies cannot flop. because basically they're just too cheap. On the flip side, you've got movies that are too expensive to succeed. Yes, the Avengers and Iron Man 3 were huge successes because they brought in such big bank, but they cost a ton to make. I mean, anybody would be happy with 200 million, except for the makers of Thor 2: The Dark World, a movie which I liked. However, it only made 170 million in America. Now that's why they're turning to the foreign markets so much. The foreign markets will eat up our superhero movies to death. Why? Because they really don't understand the English, but they understand the fancy characters and the fancy costumes and the action. So that's why it makes it. They don't understand what we're saying, but we just look good saying it. That's all that really matters in those foreign markets. But that said, the superhero movies of tomorrow need have a lot to live up to. But if they keep spending so much money and they don't make that money back, it could crash the whole system, just like these guys warned us about. Do you agree with my list? What are some of the top 5 concerns of future superhero movies that you see coming at us? Please let me know in the comments below.